They kneed her in the face, and the world went silent. A gasp rippled through the school hallway. A tray crashed to the floor, and as the new girl fell to her knees, clutching her nose, eyes wide with shock, nobody moved. Except one boy. He saw the blood, the fear, and the strength hiding behind her silence. He didn't know it yet, but that moment would change everything. For her, for them, and for him. The new arrival. Her name was Evelyn Rowe. 16, quiet, and too polite for the chaos of Preston High. She'd just transferred mid-semester, the kind of student teachers immediately liked and students immediately questioned. She wore no makeup, tied her hair in a simple braid, and carried a backpack patched with worn stickers. But there was something else, something no one noticed at first. A kind of watchfulness. The way she scanned every hallway, every noise, every sudden movement. Almost like someone who'd been through things most teenagers couldn't imagine. The cruel circle. Preston High had its rulers, the trio everyone avoided crossing. Haley Monroe, daughter of a local councilman. Her sidekick Lacey, and Brett, the captain of the wrestling team. They moved through the halls like they owned them. Cruel smiles, expensive shoes, and the confidence of people who never faced consequences. And on Evelyn's first week, she accidentally walked right into their world. The collision. It happened at lunch. She was hurrying, trying to find a seat before the cafeteria filled. Her elbow brushed Haley's tray. A splash of soda. A smear of pasta sauce on Haley's pristine white blouse. The cafeteria froze. Haley blinked once, slow and deadly. "Watch it, new girl." I'm so sorry," Evelyn stammered, reaching for napkins. "It was an accident." Haley's voice turned sharp. "Do you even know how much this costs?" Then, before Evelyn could answer, Brett stepped forward. "She said sorry, Hales," he muttered, half-bored. But Haley smirked. "Not sorry enough." And then, like it was nothing, she shoved Evelyn's shoulder. The crowd gasped. Evelyn stumbled but didn't fight back. That only made Haley angrier. "You just gonna stand there?" Evelyn said quietly, "I don't fight people who can't see their own reflection." It was the calmest insult anyone had ever delivered. And it cut deep. The attack. Haley's cheeks flushed red. "What did you just say?" Lacey whispered. "She called you shallow." And before anyone could blink, Brett grabbed Evelyn's arm. "What's your problem, new girl?" She tried to pull away, but Haley stepped in, furious. Then, in one brutal second, Haley's knee came up. It hit Evelyn square in the face. The sound echoed, sickening, final. Evelyn dropped to the ground, one hand covering her nose, the other bracing against the cold tile. Blood. Whispers. Laughter. Then silence. The one who stepped forward. That's when Jace Holloway moved. He was the quiet kid in the back of class. Leather jacket, motorcycle helmet always in hand. Never said much. But he saw enough to know wrong when he saw it. "Hey!" he shouted, pushing through the crowd. Haley froze. "What's your deal, Holloway?" He knelt beside Evelyn, ignoring them. "You okay?" She nodded, barely. "I'm fine." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were still steady, sharp. It was like the pain didn't matter. "You're bleeding," Jace murmured. "I've had worse," she said quietly. That line, "I've had worse," stuck in his head for days. The aftermath. Teachers rushed in, breaking up the scene. Haley and her friends lied, of course. Claimed Evelyn tripped. The cameras didn't catch the angle clearly. So, as usual, the bullies walked free. But rumors spread fast. Some said Evelyn was pressing charges. Others said she was an army brat, trained in combat. One rumor even said she'd been expelled from her last school for fighting a teacher. None of them were true. But the truth was something far more powerful and painful. The past she hid. That evening, Evelyn sat on her porch, ice pack pressed to her nose. Her mother, Dr. Marion Rowe, sat beside her. Still in her paramedic uniform, exhaustion in her eyes. "You didn't hit back, did you?" her mother asked softly. Evelyn shook her head. "No." Her mother smiled faintly. "Good. Fighting doesn't fix the world. Healing does." They sat in silence, the kind that carried both pride and sadness. Because 2 years earlier, Evelyn's father, Captain Rowe, had been a soldier. He died trying to protect civilians overseas. And Evelyn had promised, at his funeral, never to hurt anyone if she could help it. That promise had made her strong, but it had also made her a target. The Whisper Network. The next few days, something unexpected happened. Jace, the boy who helped her, started sitting near her in class. He didn't talk much, but he'd leave an extra pen on her desk, or open the door when her hands were full. Small gestures, quiet kindness, and slowly, others followed. A shy girl named Mila offered her notes. The janitor, Mr. Cohen, left a Band-Aid box in her locker. Even a teacher, Mr. Rennick, gave her extra time on assignments. It was like the universe had decided to balance things out, one kind act at a time. Still, Haley wasn't done. She hated being ignored more than anything. The second encounter. Friday came. The gym echoed with sneakers squeaking, basketballs bouncing. Evelyn had joined the girls' team, hoping to stay under the radar. Haley spotted her from across the court. "Oh, look who's brave enough to show up again." Evelyn ignored her, but Haley wouldn't let it go. "Hey, new girl. Maybe you can dodge this better than my knee." She threw the ball hard. It hit Evelyn's shoulder, a thud that echoed. Evelyn turned slowly, steady as stone. Everyone expected her to cry, to leave. Instead, she walked to the ball, picked it up, and spun it once in her hand. Then, without a word, she shot it from half-court. Nothing but net. The gym erupted, not in laughter, but in awe. Haley froze, her smirk fading. Evelyn said quietly, "Next time, aim higher. You might hit some decency." Even Jace, watching from the bleachers, couldn't help but smile. The new girl wasn't just brave. She was brilliant. The truth about her strength. What no one knew was that Evelyn had spent years training, not for violence but for discipline. Her father had taught her martial arts for self-control, not revenge. And though she could have defended herself that day in the cafeteria, she chose not to. Because real strength, he'd said, is knowing when not to strike. But the day would come when she'd have no choice. And when it did, the world would finally see who she really was. The suspicion. Haley's father, Councilman Monroe, was furious when he heard about the viral clip. The half-court shot that made his daughter look like a fool. "She embarrassed you?" he barked. "She humiliated me," Haley snapped. He narrowed his eyes. "Then we'll remind her what happens when nobody step out of line." And with that, Haley's revenge began. This time, not just with insults, but with a plan that would push Evelyn to her limits. The kindness that sparked hope. Meanwhile, Jace noticed how Evelyn always volunteered after school. Tutoring younger kids, helping janitors, collecting leftover lunches to donate. He followed her one evening, curious. She wasn't going home. She was heading to the local community shelter, where her mom volunteered. Evelyn knelt beside a child, teaching him how to read. That's when it hit him, she wasn't weak. She was kind in a world that punished kindness. Days turned into weeks. Evelyn kept her head down, focused on her studies, and helped wherever she could. But Preston High wasn't done testing her. Rumors spread like wildfire. She used to be in juvie. She's a fighter, like trained military. She only got into this school because her mom works for free. Every whisper was a dagger, but Evelyn didn't flinch. She smiled at teachers, tutored classmates, and stayed late in the library. The louder the lies became, the quieter her grace grew. That was her strength. Not the kind that throws punches, but the kind that absorbs pain and turns it into purpose. The fire drill that wasn't. It happened on a Thursday. Gray skies, the air heavy with rain. The bell rang at 11:27 a.m. Sharp, shrill, and unexpected. Students groaned, thinking it was just another drill. But then smoke curled from the east wing. At first, no one panicked, until someone shouted, "The chemistry lab's on fire!" Within minutes, chaos erupted. Teachers yelled for students to line up. Alarms blared, and fear spread faster than the smoke. In the confusion, a freshman tripped. Another was trapped behind a jammed door, and Haley Monroe, of all people, was missing. The moment everything changed. Evelyn had just stepped outside with her class when she heard it. A scream, faint but sharp, echoing from the hallway. Everyone else froze. Teachers were counting heads, waiting for firefighters. But Evelyn didn't wait. She dropped her bag and ran toward the smoke. "Evelyn, no!" her teacher shouted. She didn't turn back. Inside the fire, the hallway was thick with gray smoke, heat licking the walls, alarms howling overhead. Evelyn covered her mouth with her sleeve, crouching low. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "When fear rises, stay grounded. Calm wins battles that strength can't." She moved fast, scanning each classroom. Then she heard it again, a muffled cry from the lab. She kicked the door open, and through the haze, she saw Haley, the same girl who had kneed her in the face, now curled against the wall, eyes wide, gasping for air. A heavy shelf had collapsed, trapping her leg. The choice. For one frozen heartbeat, Evelyn just stared. The world seemed to whisper, "Walk away. She deserves it." But Evelyn wasn't built that way. She grabbed the nearest metal bar and levered it against the shelf. Her arms shook with effort, but slowly, painfully, she freed Haley's leg. Haley sobbed. "I can't walk." Evelyn crouched down. "Then I'll carry you." The rescue. Smoke filled the corridor as Evelyn lifted her onto her back. The weight heavy, but her resolve unbreakable. Every step burned her lungs. Every breath was a battle, but she kept moving. At the exit, firefighters were rushing in, and when they saw her emerging through the haze, carrying Haley Monroe in her arms, they stopped in awe. "Get them both out," one yelled. Evelyn stumbled into the sunlight, collapsed to her knees, and handed Haley to the medics. Her face was covered in soot, eyes red from smoke, but she smiled weakly. "She's okay," she whispered, before passing out. The aftermath. When she woke up, she was in the hospital, oxygen mask on, for in her arm. Her mom sat beside her, holding her hand. "You scared me," she whispered. Evelyn smiled faintly. "I couldn't just leave her." Her mother brushed her hair gently. "You're too much like your father," she said softly. "And thank God for that." The news spreads. By evening, the story was everywhere. Student risks life to save classmate in school fire. Photos of Evelyn being pulled from the smoke went viral. The same students who whispered rumors were now writing messages like, "She's a hero. She saved Haley Monroe. She's not what we thought." The principal called it an act of extraordinary courage. Local reporters wanted interviews, but Evelyn said no. She didn't want fame, she just wanted peace. Haley's realization. Haley limped into Evelyn's hospital room 2 days later, her leg bandaged, her voice trembling. I don't know what to say," she murmured. Evelyn looked up, quiet but kind. "You don't have to say anything." "No," Haley insisted. "I was horrible to you, and you saved me." "Why?" Evelyn smiled weakly. "Because someone once saved my dad. He didn't make it. But I remember the man who tried. He didn't ask who my father was, he just helped. I wanted to be like that." Haley's eyes filled with tears. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know," Evelyn said softly. "Now do something good with it." The ripple effect. Something shifted after that. Haley quit the gossip group. She started tutoring kids who fell behind. She even helped clean graffiti off the school walls with Evelyn. The mean girl of Preston High was gone. In her place stood someone learning humility, all because of one act of kindness. And she wasn't the only one. Jace, the quiet biker, started organizing weekend rides to deliver supplies to the shelter where Evelyn volunteered. Lacey joined too, shy but sincere. Students who barely spoke before began showing up with blankets, clothes, and food donations. The whole school, once divided by cruelty, was now united by compassion. The mystery of Evelyn Rowe. One day, a reporter finally cornered Jace outside the school. "She's a hero," they said. "Who is she, really?" Jace smiled faintly. "She's Evelyn Rowe," he said. "The girl who taught us that kindness isn't weakness. It's strength most of us will never understand." The return to the gym. A month later, at the annual school assembly, the principal announced a new award, the Rowe Medal for Courage and Compassion. It would be given every year to a student who changed lives through kindness. When Evelyn walked onto the stage to receive it, the crowd stood in silence, not for pity, but for respect. She took the microphone, voice steady, eyes shining. "I don't want to be remembered for what I did in a fire," she said. "I want you to remember that everyone you meet is fighting a battle you can't see. Sometimes, all they need is a little kindness to survive it." The room erupted in applause. Even the teachers had tears in their eyes. A quiet ending. That night, as she stood by the same porch where she once nursed her bruises, Evelyn looked up at the stars. Jace rolled up on his motorcycle, helmet under his arm. "You really think kindness can change people that much?" he asked. She smiled softly. "It already has." He grinned. "You're something else, Ro." She chuckled. "No, I'm just someone who finally stopped waiting for the world to change and decided to start with herself." They stood in silence. Two souls, quiet but unbroken, watching a world they had helped make a little better. The final reflection. Kindness doesn't always come from perfection. Sometimes it rises from pain, from the people who've been hurt enough to understand what healing really means. Evelyn Rowe wasn't a warrior in the way they expected. She didn't fight with fists. She fought with forgiveness. And that was what made her unforgettable.